Hey guys, so since you didn't have homework from the last lecture, we are going to start today with a little bit of review of augmented sixth chords. So you're going to need handout 29 for today and a pencil. If you've looked at the handout, it's a little naked. You're going to be doing a lot of writing today. So make sure that you have a pencil of some sort, and we're going to start off with a little bit of review and then get going. So you will have homework after this lecture. Sorry about it. It is homework 20. So let's just review really quickly what we did last class. We learned about augmented sixth chords. I can never tell if my thumbnail, my face is in the way of this, so I'm gonna move me around, sorry. So we did a little intro to augmented sixth chords. What we learned were that they are chromatic predominant harmonies, and they get their name from the interval that's created between the two tendency tones. So you can see here I have us in B minor, and I've just spelled out the important pitches of the augmented sixth chord. And we talked about scale degrees. So in the bass, you are more often than not going to have scale degree 6. If you're in a major key, you do have to lower it and turn into flat 6. And your augmented sixth interval then comes from having sharp 4 in a voice above that. It doesn't necessarily have to be the uppermost voice. Now, because they are chromatic predominant, they do resolve to the dominant, and we saw that in both of the examples in our last class. So both pitches resolve outward by half step to build the framework of our dominant. So you get scale degree 5 on each end, and then we just fill in the inner voices to complete our dominant depending on kind of where everybody else was. So we get that half step outward resolution to land us on the dominant chord. Now today we're going to have a building day. We're going to learn how to build all of the different types of augmented sixth chords. So let's go ahead and get going. When you jump back on, I will have the handout ready. So grab yourself handout 29 and we will get started. As you can see from your handout, there are 3 types of augmented sixth chords. I generally refer to them as 3 flavors. They are named the Italian, French, and German sixth chords. So today we're going to learn what makes each of them and then how to build and resolve them. So let's take a look, and we're going to go from most to least complex. The Italian sixth is actually what we saw last class. You've got your augmented sixth interval. So that is here and here. And then there's just one additional note, and that is tonic, and it is doubled. So if we're talking about kind of where this chord came from, we spent last class talking about the augmented sixth chord as like a marriage between the 4 chord and the 5 of 5. So the Italian sixth is most closely related to the 4-6. So just a regular old plain 4 chord in first inversion. So if you're here in C minor, here's your 4-6 going to 5. So let's turn that into an Italian 6. All we have to do is change the F into an F sharp. And so there's your augmented 6 resolving out to the octave. That scale degree 1 in the middle is doubled. And why do we double it? Because sharp 4 has to go to 5 and 6 has to go to 5. And you can't double those pitches. So you've got to double the other guy. And then it just splits off and gives you scale degree 7 in one direction and scale degree 2 in the other, and builds you a nice full 5 chord. So that is our simplest version of the augmented sixth chord. If we add a little bit of complexity to it, we get the French sixth. So again, our augmented sixth interval stays the same. We're adding a 4th note to the harmony though. We still have tonic, we still have scale degree 1 in the tenor voice, and we have also added a 4th pitch, which is scale degree 2. Now, if we're talking about who is the most closely related diatonic chord, it is our 2 half diminished 4-3. So here is that harmony and how it would resolve to 5. Now, again, all we're doing is changing the F into an F sharp and resolving that to 5. One of the interesting things about the French 4-3, and we'll see this exploited in various ways, is its intervallic construction. So take a look at the interval between our kind of opposing voices. So bass and alto, we have a lovely tritone. And then tenor and soprano, we actually have another one. So the French 4-3, it's 2 interlocking tritones. And we've talked about that in the context of the 7 fully diminished 7 too. So it gives it a little bit of extra tension and crunch. All right, let's talk about the last and perhaps the most complex of the 3, mostly complex in its resolution because you've got to remember there's an extra step. All right, our German 6th chord. This is also most closely related to the 4 chord, only this time it's a 4-6-5. So we've added the 7th in, which means that it contains scale degree 3 or flat 3 if you're in a major key. Now, if you look at the resolution here, you can just see that there's something different going on from the other augmented 6 chords. Our German 6 has to go to a cadential 6-4 before it goes to 5. And that is to avoid parallel fifths. So take a look at the bass voice and the alto voice. If they go directly, if we go directly to a 5 chord, you are going to get parallel fifths between these 2 voices, right? Because we would have E flat going to E, going to D, and A flat going to G. So we have to stagger that. Easy way to do that is just to stop on a cadential 6-4 first. So your German 6, or your German 6-5, as I tend to call it, is always going to stop at a cadential 6-4 on the way to the 5 chord. Now, another interesting thing, and you'll get to this a lot in Theory 3, but it's worth mentioning here. I'm just going to play this German 6-5 for you, just out of context. Here it is. I want you to tell me what that sounds like. If I just played this for you in class, what harmony would you say it was? Hopefully, most of you are saying, wow, that sounds like a dominant. And in fact, we had a homework assignment where I had you skip a particular harmony. This was a few weeks ago. And some of you wrote in the margin, this sounds like a dominant, or this should be a 5-7, or it sounds like a 5-7, but it's spelled funny. And it actually was a German 6. So it sounds like a dominant, but it resolves differently. So composers exploit that to take you to cool key areas. And you'll learn about that in Theory 3, but it's something to keep in mind that's kind of fun. Okay, let's take a look at page 2. Now, like I said, you notice that your second page is pretty blank. I'm going to walk and talk you through the spelling and the resolution of all 3 augmented 6th chords, because this is on your homework. But I'm going to talk you through in 2 different ways. The reason I left all of that blank space is for you to annotate as you go and decide which methodology works best for you. So what I mean is I'm going to talk you through spelling and resolving using scale degrees and also using intervals. We all kind of learn and acclimate in different ways. So if you're someone who really likes scale degrees, focus on that and annotate accordingly. If you would rather build by interval, focus on that and make those notes for you. But we're going to build each flavor. And then the 4th staff there is for us to build one in a minor key to see how it's, in a major key, sorry, to see how it's a little bit different. Okay, so let's go ahead and get rolling. We're going to go in the same order. So let's start with the simplest one. So we are in E minor, and what I would like to do, let's say I ask you to build and resolve an Italian 6th chord. So your first step in building it is figuring out who the bass is going to be. So if we're in a minor key, our bass is just simply scale degree 6. Now, we know that we need an augmented sixth interval. So if you're building by intervals, you know that you need an augmented sixth somewhere above the base. So you've got C in the base, an augmented sixth is going to give you what interval or what pitch? And that would be an A sharp. Now, alternatively, you can just say, I need sharp 4 somewhere. Now, an Italian 6 only has one other pitch. From your base, you're going to build a major third, and you're going to double it. So from my base, I'm going to go a major third up. So C up a major third gives me E, and I'm going to double it. Alternatively, take scale degree 1 and double that. Resolution, easy peasy. Augmented sixth splits out to give you the octave. And the only thing you have to be careful of here is because your scale degree 1 is doubled, it's either going to be at unison or at the octave, more than likely. So if it's in the inner voices like that, you've just got to be careful of spacing. So resolve it in opposite directions so it doesn't cross. So the way I have it here, I'm going to need this one, the tenor one, to go down, and the alto one to go up so they don't cross each other. Don't forget to raise your leading tone in the 5 chords. What generally happens is you guys do a great job doing the thing that we're doing, and then you forget to do something that I know that you know how to do. So don't forget to raise the leading tone in the 5 chord after you've done all this work to spell and resolve your augmented 6 chord nicely. So if we're thinking about, how to best kind of work around this, if you're thinking about spelling, scale degree 4, sharp 4, you need 2 1s, you need a 6 in the base. If you're thinking about intervals instead, from your base, you're going to need an augmented 6th and a major third, and you do the major third twice. So that's kind of your construction. Now, all of these upper voices can be anywhere. The important thing is that scale degree 6 is in the base. I'm generally going to spell them in the same configuration just so that we have some consistency from one staff to the other. All right, now let's add a note. So here we are in G minor. Let's get a French for 3 and resolve it to 5. So your first step is find scale degree 6, or you can also think of it as find a half step above the dominant, and that only really comes into play in major keys. So find scale degree 6, which in this case is going to give us an E flat. So again, go with the system that works best for you. So you've got scale degree 6. You're going to need your augmented 6th interval. If you want to think of it in scale degrees, that would be sharp 4. So whichever one works for you, we're all going to get the same answer of C sharp. Now, we remember that all flavors still have 3 common pitches. We're just changing that 4th pitch. So you're going to need a scale degree 1, or alternatively, if you're thinking in intervals, you need to build a major third above the base. So in that case, you can put in either the alto or the tenor. but you're going to need a G somewhere. And last but not least, and this is what makes our French sixth the French sixth, is that additional fourth pitch. You can think of it as scale degree 2. If we're building by intervals above the bass, you're going to have an augmented fourth, and that's that second tritone. So whichever way you slice it, you're going to have an A somewhere. Okay, let's talk resolution. Always and forever, augmented sixth becomes the octave on the 5. You actually get a common tone here for your 5 chords, so scale degree 2 gets to stay. And then all you have to do is bring scale degree 1 down to 7. Don't forget to raise your leading tone. Last but not least, let's get ourselves a German 6, and we're going to resolve it, and you cannot forget that it goes first to a cadential 6/4 and then to a root position dominant. So let's get ourselves the framework. You know you need a sharp 4. You know you need a 1. You know you need a 6. So let's get all of that situated. Scale degree 6 in the bass, that'll give you an F. Scale degree sharp 4 and or build your augmented sixth, gives you a D sharp. And you're going to need a scale degree 1 somewhere. I'm going to put it here. And last but not least, what makes the German 6 sound like a German 6 is scale degree 3. So I'm going to put that one in the tenor. If we're talking intervals, there's your Aug 6. There's your major third above the bass. And this is the important one, you need a perfect fifth. And if you think about construction and the fact that it sounded like a dominant, that'll help you remember to keep that fifth above the bass perfect. All right, resolution. This guy's got an extra step. So step 1 is resolve the augmented sixth out. And then the other 2 voices are just going to stay where they are. And voila, that gives you a cadential dominant. Then you are just going to walk those middle 2 voices, or wherever they are, down to fill out your root position dominant chord. So once you make it to the cadential dominant, you're good to go. You know what to do from there, but it's just a matter of remembering to stop there first. Now, why did I make this fuss about building with intervals rather than scale degrees and kind of offering that as an option? Mostly because when you get to a major key and you try and spell these, if you're going by scale degrees, you do have to make some alterations, and it can be really, really easy to forget. So let's do this same process, but in C major. Now, the very first thing is you have to alter your bass pitch. So that's why I made that comment about you can think of it as a half step above scale degree 5, because in a minor key, you don't do anything. But in a major key, you do have to alter that pitch. A half step above scale degree 5 is flat 6, not diatonic 6. So we're going to go ahead and have flat 6. Sorry, that's a really gross looking flat. I'll fix that. So we're gonna have flat 6 in our bass voice. And let's build our augmented 6th interval. And that will still give us sharp 4, regardless of what key area, major or minor. That'll still give us sharp 4. So I'm going to put that here. Now, can we build a major third above the bass? So your bass is A flat. Find yourself a major third above that. And your answer should be C. And that, in fact, is scale degree 1. Now, I made a big fuss about that final pitch being a perfect 5th above your bass pitch. So your bass is A flat. Who is a perfect 5th above that? Your answer should hopefully be E flat. And now you can see how messy this is in a major key. So your final pitch is flat 3. That gives you your perfect 5th above the bass. This is why I lean towards building by intervals, because you can't mess it up. I mean, you can, but you don't have to worry about, do I alter this scale degree or do I not? If you build it by intervals, it's always going to be the same. Now let's go ahead and resolve this, because it actually gets grosser. So step 1 is going to be to split your Aug 6 out to the octave. Now we are building a cadential dominant in C major. What about this is going to be different than building our cadential dominant in the A minor example? In the A minor example, you had these common tones that stretched over, right? We can keep our C, that's fine. But we're in C major. So this flat 3 actually has to get canceled out, and we need to return it to a diatonic scale degree 3. And then from here, then you are okay to move to your 5 chord. You don't have to raise the dominant, raise the leading tone, because we're in major. So that's, I mean, look how ugly that is, yeah? You've got to do a lot. So keep in mind that if you are building by scale degrees, that's absolutely fine. But you do have to be really cognizant of intervallic construction when you get to a major key. Or you've got to be able to just remember what alterations you need to make when you get to a major key. You might just find it helpful to kind of like screenshot this mess and keep it in your back pocket. Or take notes, however is most helpful for you. The homework for this lecture is just a lot of building and resolving. Go slow. So like maybe take breaks. My brain gets tired when I build and resolve these for too long. So maybe like take some breaks, double check with your notes. Don't feel like you have to kind of do it all in one fell swoop. Double check with your notes, make sure you raise the leading tones in your dominants and the minor key examples. The entire last system of the homework is in major. So be really, really cognizant of your intervallic construction and your alterations in those 3 examples in particular. Okay, that was a lot of heavy lifting, guys. We'll back it off and do some augmented 6 chords in the wild, along with some part writing on Friday. So hop in office hours if you've got questions. Otherwise, I will see you in a couple days. Thanks for your attention, and be well, guys.